You're now listening to Sound Talent Media. Check out more shows at soundtalentmedia.com.
Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm Matt Migaki, the vocalist of Cryptopsy and the host of the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast, where I sit down with fellow metal musicians. We talk all about their lives and music while sharing killer craft beers. If you've ever wanted to sneak backstage and share a beer with one of your favorite musicians, well, Vox and Hops is the podcast for you. This week on the podcast, I dropped a killer episode with Johannes Ekström of Avatar. There is this episode and over 440 other ones to help you enjoy life, metal, and craft beer. So what are you waiting for? It's time to become a Vox and Hops head. Cheers!
Welcome to it. This is basically the exciting world of being on the Tone Mob podcast. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the ToneMob.com podcast, the show about guitar tone and the people behind it. I'm your host, Blake Weiland, and with me today, I have Joe Vella of Electrofaustus. What's going on, man?
How you doing, Blake? Thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm excited that you're here. I've been kind of addicted to those two items you sent me, and I'm trying not to constantly post about them, even though you may like that. I think people might get tired of me constantly making racket in their feeds.
Yeah, we don't want anybody thinking that there's some payola going on or anything.
I mean, I'm open to payola. I'm just saying. I mean, if you want to do some payola, we can talk about that off the air. But yeah.
Well, we do gearola. We just give away, we give away stuff sometimes.
Well, it's just, I don't know. And now I'm super curious about the rest of your stuff because those things have just been really, really fun. The Guitar Disruptor and I actually find myself spending more time with the drone thing than I imagined that I would.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think we're, idiosyncratic, and that's kind of been our thing, is that we're not just, an effects company. I would say, I think we may have actually more instruments than we have effects, which is kind of weird. And it's just kind of the way it turned out. I mean, that's just how we kind of started out. We didn't really look at ourselves as purely an effects company. So it kind of frees us up to do weird things like that. The drone thing, the black flies and other, it's just this weird thing. I mean, what is it? It's just this thing with springs and a contact mic and makes all kinds of noises.
Yeah, that thing looks like a good time. And then I've seen people modding them. It's to do other stuff, and I thought that was really interesting too.
Yeah, I mean, it's that's part of it. I would say is that they're the devices are they're simple enough so that you could open them up. I mean, in the case of the Blackfly, it's not even there's no power supply. I mean, it's just a passive circuit, so you can open the thing up without any fear of really breaking anything. And yeah, I mean, there's a guy, I think he's in Sweden, called the Magpie. That might have been the person you saw who.
I think that sounds right. Yeah,
he's posting. He's taken apart just about all of our pedals and done stuff with them. And so yeah, we totally condone that and. Look, we love that.
I mean, it's probably not great for warranty, but
no. Well, yeah. I mean, if you break it, then it's your problem. I mean, if you're gonna do that, then it's on you.
Right. Well, maybe we should take a step back here and kind of let you explain to the listeners the type of effects and instruments that your company makes, and then we can kind of dive into those a little bit and
sure. I mean,
explore it.
Yeah, I mean, let me just, I guess, start by saying that, we started the company in 2008. The company is me and my friend Eric Kessel, who I've been friends with since high school. We've, him and I have, we've always, done creative projects together, whether it be, musical or, writing or whatever. And we've done that for years. And so what happened was around 2008, I kind of got back into circuit building. It's something it's been a hobby of mine on and off for, since I was a kid. And I picked up a few books. One was guy named Reed Ghazala, who's like the like circuit bending godfather. He's like the guy that invented circuit bending. So I started getting to that, taking apart toys and tinkering and stuff like that. Another book was by a guy named Nick Collins. What was it? Handmade electronic instruments, and just basically instructional, like with very basic type circuit building, and oscillators and working with oscillators and contact mics and stuff like that. So I started building these things. Built like a simple oscillator, phototheremin, and like a primitive, I guess what was to become like the guitar disruptor, sort of distortion with oscillation, and with really no intention of starting a company. It was just like, this is just a hobby I'm doing. I'm just building these things. I'm you know taking apart toys and building these weird things, and I'm just making them for myself really, and giving them to my friends. And one of those friends being Eric, who is like really great with graphics, and he went to FIT, and is just really graphic oriented. So I gave him one, and soon after he kind of came up to me and he's like, I'd given it to him in like this plain sort of like Radio Shack nondescript box, like with with two knobs on it, very very plain looking thing. And he
Right.
came back to me and was like, it's like, I could design a logo for you. I could design like a really cool label that we could stick on this thing, and it's like, maybe you could sell them. So
Right.
that's kind of like, that's how Electrofaustus started. It was as simple as that. I'm like, okay, go ahead, design a logo, do something, and do something with it. And he came back a few weeks later, and that was the dual oscillator, which is like our first pedal. That was the first device. He made a label for that, and we sold, I don't know, I think maybe like 10 of them, like the first month on eBay. We didn't even have a website. It was just eBay, and it's just been rolling that, along ever since. Made 10, and then we sold them, and then we made 20 and sold those, and just kept on going. But that's kind of how it's been.
Nice. Very cool. Very cool. Um, yeah. So how did you? I mean, obviously, you have some level of interest in the guitar to make something called the Guitar Disruptor. Was that your
Right.
first instrument, or did you start? What was your musical background?
The
How did you get started?
Well, I was I used to play guitar. I was in a band back in the '90s called Nanofrog, that you can still find their stuff, I think, on iTunes somewhere. But that was, originally I was a musician, so I've always been into music. But yeah, I mean, the Guitar Disruptor came from, I guess, just experimenting with sort of distortion, and then adding adding the oscillator on top of it, and just mixing those two things, which has kind of subsequently become more popular. But 8 years ago, wasn't quite wasn't quite as big. I think a lot has changed over the last 8 years. But so, and in addition to being a guitar player, we Eric and I, like I said, we've done, before we started the company, we had done musical stuff together, and usually the musical stuff that we did was geared pretty heavily towards sort of noise and almost like music concrete. So I think like part of our aesthetic comes from that, where it's noise devices. It's not the pedals aren't, we're not trying to recreate like a classic sound per se. We'll never do something like that. It's more of like, how can we take a nice guitar sound and make it sound terrible, basically. That's kind of that's our aesthetic across the board, I would say, is to kind of you know push the limit a little bit, push musicians out of their comfort zone a little bit. And like, whether it be the drone thing or the black fly, is to create sounds that you're normally not going to hear with a regular effects pedal or instrument.
Right, right, for sure. Were there bands or things you had in mind musically when you put some of these things together? Like, oh, I bet somebody in this genre would use it, or whatever. Anything like that?
um Not really. No, I mean, Eric kind of did. Eric is a little bit more knowledgeable with artists, knowing who they are. And it's funny. There's a Japanese noise artist called Merzbow, who he was a huge fan of, way before we started this, and about like 3 or 4 years ago, he saw a picture. He actually found out that this guy Merzbow was using our stuff, and he like almost like he just went through the roof. He couldn't believe it. He's so happy, and just I mean, like this hero of his that was like using our stuff, and it was pretty cool. But I didn't really have any preconceived notions. I mean, I've always been. I mean, the music I like. I mean, I'm a huge Hendrix fan, so you know, he's a guy that in a way, is almost like an original noise musician. I mean, with some of the stuff that he did. So I mean, maybe in my mind, I could
No,
see
I think that's valid. That's a yeah, for
definitely
sure.
like with certain like to me like his guitar playing it reminds me a lot of like theremin playing in a weird way. I mean, some of those the sustained like crazy screaming notes and stuff like that. Um, and he was like a huge influence on me when I was a guitar player. So
Hmm.
um, I guess that for me that would be he would be a huge influence.
Yeah. Well, you said that a couple times when you were a guitar player. So was that? Do I take that to mean like you don't play guitar at all now?
Well,
Is
I
that?
mean, like I say, because I was in a band and I used to like rehearse every week, and like it was kind of like an official thing. Like to me, that's like being a guitar player. You're in a band, you're recording and playing gigs and stuff like that. So yeah, I don't do that anymore.
Oh, I got you.
Yep. But no,
I guess I.
I definitely I still play. I mean, I
Okay.
definitely,
Okay.
but it's
I
not.
guess I'm not a guitar player then. Dang it.
I mean,
Uh.
that's just I mean that's just my view of it. I mean, like you know what I mean. I don't want to just. I mean, look. You could still be a guitar player. I don't want to say you're not.
Well,
I
if you heard
just
me play, you might say I'm not, but
yeah
that's okay.
yeah
uh, so yeah, that's cool. I was thinking about some of your. Yeah, I don't know. You probably have already thought about this before, but um, some of the stuff, especially looking at the Black Fly and the drone thing in particular, I was like, I wish I could plug my guitar into this somehow and make it do other things, like blend them together. And I was like
right
looking at like blender pedals and things, other trying to figure out how to integrate the drone thing into a rig that I would use. You know what I mean?
right yeah
Um, I have a lot of ideas, but I'm going to be trying to experiment with some blenders and see what I come up with.
yeah. I mean it's definitely something you could stick in a mixer and kind of like you said do it that way, sort of brute force it and mix the two signals.
Yeah.
Um, I mean I guess our two like guitar effects pedals, the disruptor and the guitar damarung are the closest things to like blending a guitar sound with some crazy oscillation. So in that case, it's they're blending. But yeah, the other stuff, the Black Fly, the drone thing, they're kind of just standalone,
Mm-hmm.
at least for now. I mean,
Yeah, who
but
knows?
yeah, I mean, this year we've been this year's kind of been like the year of the collaboration. So we do have something coming out that we did a collaboration with Fuzz Roches,
Yes, one of my favorites.
with the Black Fly. So that's one thing. We're also working on a modular, a Eurorack modular thing of the Black Fly that it's still in the early stages, but we have a friend that his name is Mickey Delp. He has a pedal company too. He's helping us with that. He's a little more familiar with modular stuff, but
Gotcha.
hoping to bring that into the modular Eurorack thing. A lot of people have been. I mean, it's become so big now. It's like you can't ignore it. You know.
I was kind of surprised. So I've been very curious about the Eurorack stuff for a long time. I've never pulled the trigger on it for a couple reasons, and one of them is actually because I love guitar pedals so much, and that
Yep.
is like guitar pedals on steroids. So
Yep.
I could just see this horrible spiraling out of control addiction that would happen if I
Yeah.
got into Eurorack.
Yeah.
So,
Me and Eric were at Moog Fest a few weeks ago,
mm-hmm.
and Zvex.
Yeah,
They've gone. I mean, they're still they still make pedals, but they've done they've taken all their pedals now. They had a whole modular uh, the whole modular setup there in the
I
they had a little
didn't know that.
marketplace. Yeah, they've I mean it looked to be like almost all of their pedals had been turned modular. They had a whole rack full of them. So
The
they're one
Fuzz
coming.
Factory like seems like it should be a modular unit, you know? Like
Yeah.
that I've said it before that it's almost an instrument in and of itself.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's basically like self-oscillates. It's, it is. It really is.
That's really interesting. I'm gonna have to check that out. It's very
Yeah,
cool.
I'd kind of heard, that they had done that, but I was surprised to see them at Moogfest because, I mean, they're, you know, they're like one of the original, like boutique pedal companies, and to see them at Moogfest, it was just interesting with the Eurorack stuff,
That's fascinating.
Yep.
So do you have your rack module stuff yourself, like outside of things you've built, or is that not in your wheelhouse?
Well, I recently just picked one up. It's called Pittsburgh modular. It's like Pittsburgh. It's like 10.1 system or something. It's basically I don't know. It's about like a 2 foot long little container. Half of it is already pre-filled with modules that they give you, and then there's like another little section where you can put your own stuff. And
Gotcha.
that was, it was a couple $100, and we knew that we were going to be modularizing the Blackfly, so I wanted to have that to be able to test with, just for that. I mean, I don't see it getting. I'm not going to have like one of these walls of 10-foot wall of modules. I'm more of a pedal person myself too, but
Right.
I figured everyone's talking about it. Everybody's at the last NAMM, at least a half a dozen people came up to us and it was like, so when are you going to make a Eurorack module? When are you going to make a module? So it's like, all right, let's do it. Let me at least get one so I can play around with it and know the basics of it. So that's why I have it. Really.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, it's just interesting that we're having this conversation about this right now, because I think it was just yesterday I posted a picture of some crazy like room, basically, just covered in modules.
Yes. Yep. I remember that. I saw that.
Yeah, and the responses were kind of almost a little bit comical to me, because some people were like, what do you need all those pedals for? And things like that. I'm like, they're not pedals. I'm like, I said in the post though what it was, and still guitar players were very confused. They're like, that's the craziest pedal board I've ever seen. I'm like, it's not a pedal board.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's two separate worlds, and I know, for the longest time, me and Eric were kind of maybe like dismissive of it when we shouldn't have been. We were just kind of like, oh, those crazy modular guys, with them and their, big wall of modules. And going to this last Moog and seeing, some of the performances and seeing what they can do, I mean, it's definitely won me over. I mean, it's crazy and it's complicated and there's like wires everywhere, but I mean, it's pretty incredible. I mean, it's really, and when you get somebody that really knows what they're doing with it and is into it, I mean, you can really, I mean, the performance possibilities are just endless. It's pretty incredible.
And it's interesting to like watch. They're like, it's very much an interactive thing. It's not like, I mean, some electronic musicians, they do everything in the computer, and then when they're playing live, they're not really playing; they're just hitting a button,
right?
And then they kind of got to dance around and pretend that they're doing stuff. But like, what's really interesting about the modular guys is that they physically have to do everything still, for the most part. They're switching patch cables and doing all kinds of weird things. Literally playing the instrument that they've kind of created from all these other guys' work. That's why it just seems super interesting to me.
I mean, the one downside to it was like the setup.
Yeah.
Every the couple of times, the couple of shows that we saw, it was like we got there at like, say it was supposed to start at 2 and it's like 2:30 and they're still like patching cables and just still trying to kind of put everything back together again, because every time every performance it's like, okay, you disassemble it, you ship it to where it has to go, and then you have to reassemble it, and unless you have like a photograph from memory where all the cables go, it can be time consuming to put it back together again.
Oh, for sure. And yeah, depending on the size and complexity of the setup, it can just get crazy. So, well, but since this is a guitar podcast, we can talk about Euroracks all day.
Sorry, that was a detour. Sorry.
Oh, that's all we do is detour. It's fine. What I should dig into is like, so when you are playing the guitar, or when you had your band, what did your rig look like? What were you doing?
I mean, it's pretty comical by today's standards. I mean, I didn't really have a pedal board. It was really just, I think it was just like two pedals. Both of them were like Boss. One was, an overdrive pedal, and one was like a phaser.
Mm-hmm.
And there might have been a delay. There was a Boss delay too. So there are three pedals, and that was pretty much it.
Yeah. What kind of guitar were you playing?
I actually had a guitar that I made.
Tell me more.
This was like probably started when I was in college. For a period of about 10 years, I would basically go to like junk, thrift stores and garage sales and just buy guitars. Just junk guitars. Guitars
Mm-hmm.
like Sears catalog guitars from the 50s and 60s that people were throwing out and stuff. And I would sort of salvage them for the pickups, because the pickups they were bad, like they were really cheap, but when you really like put them through overdrive and everything, they sounded great.
I know
And
exactly what you're talking about.
yeah,
Yes.
I mean these big fat, I don't know what, if they were like Japanese, what they were. One of them was, I mean, it was like these fat silver pickups that were just amazing, and I kicked myself because I sold that guitar. But so that's what I would do. I would get like a big chunk of wood, usually like a square piece. I'd maybe cut out a little circle, down by the bottom of the fretboard, so you can get at them, and just install the pickups and do very simple wiring. I mean, they would basically just have a volume knob. That was it. And I built guitars, and I had this one that I played throughout the time in the band that was had these amazing pickups. I'm just so pissed I got rid of it.
This sound like you're describing like an old Supro style pickup, possibly.
Yeah, it was kind of like that. It was silver, and then like white plastic on the inside, and then the little magnets, the 6 magnets across, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, incredible sound.
Were they big? Like were they in covers?
They were not fully enclosed, no, but they were. I mean, they were single coils, but they were chunky,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, you have to dig up some pictures for me, see if we can figure out what those are, and get you another set of them.
I think I do have a picture of it somewhere. I mean, this was like 20 years ago, but yeah, I have it somewhere.
Yeah, we need to do it, but before well, Jack White's kind of already done this, where he's made all these junk guitars cool again, and now they're expensive.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but let's try to see if we can wrangle you some of those. There's enough people out there. We could find you something. I'm sure.
Yeah, you know what? If you got me the pickups, I would come out of retirement and start building guitars again.
Oh, hey,
definitely.
That ain't a bad idea.
See, originally, selling guitars and selling pedals, it's very different. Like with guitars, it's they're not cheap to make. The cost, unless you're going to sell them for a lot, it's kind of hard to be a guitar luthier. Like, you really have to have a name and like a following and be able to sell your guitars for like thousands of dollars in order to make any kind of living with that. At least, I mean, I found with that,
No, you're 120% accurate. That is exactly what happens with every luthier that I've talked to. So, it's making a living as a luthier is, based on the conversations I've had anyway, is extremely difficult.
Yeah.
You have to have kind of just like what you said, kind of a really hungry customer base in order to support, because it takes a long time to do it right. And so,
it takes a long time. I mean, you've got to, more so, I think, with the pedals. I mean, you have to kind of work with the customer and kind of, I'm sure, they're going to come to you with, I want this, I want a certain kind of neck, and it's got to have this and that. There's definitely more demands in that, I think.
Mm-hmm. For sure. I mean, not to say it's just, gravy building pedals, but like once you have your design, you have your design, you make it, it's just a different world altogether.
Yeah. So, it wasn't for me. I mean, I like building them, for myself, but didn't turn out that way. I didn't go down that path.
Right. Well, we've talked about that, and we talked about your minimal setup that you had. What were you plugging into? What kind of amps did you like?
Fender. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I'm totally a Fender man. It was a Fender Pro Reverb. Had
Yes.
the reverb. It was and vibrato, which was really cool. It was a combo unit. Two, I think it was like two 12-inch speakers. Um, so that's what I was using then. I ended up trading that, and now I just have a Fender, a Blues Junior,
Mm-hmm.
which it's cranking in my basement. It's
That's what they're
perfect.
for, man.
Yeah, yeah,
Exactly.
yep.
You ever experimented with the speakers in the Blues Junior? I've just noticed like those respond really nice to a speaker swap from the factory, unless you have one that has a different speaker in it from the
No,
factory.
I never tried that. No.
Yeah, I would definitely suggest. I've talked about this a couple times, but um, I put the first Blues Junior I ever played was one of the Tweed ones.
Oh,
It was
okay.
just a Tweed rep, and I didn't realize that they had a different speaker in them from the black ones. And I played the Tweed one, and I just like, man, I really like this little amp. This sounds really really good.
Hmm.
Like I was thinking to myself, like, why don't people talk about this amp more often? And then I tried a black one, and I was like, this is good, but it's not as good as the Tweed one. I know I can be swayed by visuals, but I can't be that swayed by visuals. Like, this
Yeah.
sounds different. I had no idea until like a little while later that the black one has a different speaker from the Tweed. So
So is it still a Fender speaker that you're getting, or is it you're just replacing it with something
no,
else?
no, there's a Jensen. I can't remember what model comes in the Tweed version, but it's a
Okay.
Jensen speaker instead of a Fender,
Okay.
if I'm recalling correctly. So, yeah, it's completely different.
Yep.
I don't
Yeah,
know who's.
I was my Pro Reverb was it was kind of going on the fritz. I had changed the tubes in it, but it just something wasn't right with it, and rather than um, have it fixed or try to mess with it, I didn't really feel comfortable messing with it myself.
Mm-hmm.
I just decided, I just went to my local guitar center, and they did a pretty good trade. It was basically a 1-to-1 trade. I gave them that, and they gave me the Blues Junior for free, and
Oh,
maybe some credit too. I forget, but I mean, I like I said, it's fine for what I need it for. For testing stuff and in the for Electrofaustus testing and just playing like I said in my basement.
yeah. So when you're playing, what kind of guitar do you have now? Since you don't
It's
have the
a
other one.
yeah, it's actually just a Squire Jaguar that I picked up a couple of years back. It's it was a couple $100, and I take it with me to NAMM and stuff like that, and throw it on the airplane, and I don't really worry about it. It's just kind of you know a utility guitar. That's really it.
Yeah,
It's not
perfect.
the action on it is kind of it's not good. I mean and the review said that. I can't say that I got something, I got shafted or something. All the reviews were like, yeah, it's a decent guitar after you spend like 6 hours, getting everything right and getting the action, whatever, and fixing this and that. And so the reviews are right about it.
Right. Well, yeah. So some of the newer Squires, like the vintage modified and stuff, that are actually like really, really solid. Like
Yeah.
for the price, like this J Mascis one and a few others. It's like, man, this is really wow. Uh, it's kind of impressive. Like this, you have to do a double take. Like I'm playing a Squire right now. This is really solid.
Yeah.
Like, 'cause I'm very guilty of the mindset of like the late '90s, early 2000s. Like Squires were just garbage. Like nobody wanted to be caught dead with one of those. But
Yeah.
now they've really stepped their game up. I
Yeah,
don't
I
know if
actually I had a funny moment. We were at it was like last September. There's a guitar store in Brooklyn called Main Drag Music,
Mm-hmm.
and they were having a pedal expo, and you basically just go, you bring your guitar, and you plug into whatever pedals were there, and I'm walking around with my my Squire Jaguar, and I see a guy he's got like the full on like classic Fender one. I was just like so embarrassed. Like I didn't even want him to see mine. He had this nice, it was nice and shiny, and just I could tell it was just it was probably like from the 70s or 60s or 70s. It was a really nice guitar.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't even want to see mine. He was just gonna laugh. Embarrassed.
Gear embarrassment.
Yeah,
I'm not worthy. I can't plug in, not in front of people.
Right.
This is terrible. Nice.
Yeah.
That Main Drag, their name keeps getting brought up, and I kind of feel like I might need to make a voyage all the way over there just to check it out, because I've heard that name thrown around a lot. They've been around a long time?
I mean, I've been aware of them since we've been in the pedal business, because we, they're a dealer of ours. So I mean, that's kind of my connection to them. They're in like a really nice spot. I mean, they're right in like Williamsburg, which is like it's just I mean that it's just blown up recently, with music.
It's
and
Hipsterville,
arts.
USA, right?
I didn't want to say that word. I mean, that H
I live
word.
in Portland, so I can say it. It's
Okay.
It's
All right.
yeah. We're the West Coast. We're the West Coast hipsters. They're the East Coast hipsters.
So,
it's fine. Own it.
But it's a really nice guitar store. I mean, especially if you're used to like Sam Ash or Guitar Center and those types of places. I mean, this is just like it's just a big open space. I mean, and they got everything. I mean, guitars and keyboards, synth stuff, and I mean, they carry our stuff. I mean, so they have a whole weird, unclassified section of all kinds of weird things. And it's just a cool place. They let you go there. You can try out anything, and yeah, definitely worth going to if you're in that area.
Cool, very cool. Oh, I need your help with something. This might sound a little weird, but I was on. I also do, as maybe some of my listeners don't know, but if they do, I do the Chasing Tone podcast with Wampler every week, also. And on the last episode, Brian was asking me, "Oh yeah, what's new with you?" And I was like, "I got these 2 things from Electrofaustus, and they're sweet." And I totally failed at trying to describe what they do.
Okay.
So like, what is the flux knob doing on the guitar disruptor? So you got like a distortion or a fuzz circuit sort of thing. What does the flux knob actually do? Because I had a horrible time trying to describe it.
Well, I mean, you're basically changing the pitch of an oscillator.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I mean, the distortion is going into that, and the that's really just changing the pitch. So it's kind of that's what gives it kind of like that squelchy kind of really high end kind of thing, where you're basically turning the pitch of the oscillator up, so it's affecting the tone in that way. That's why it's so it cuts through so much. By the time you get near the end of the turn, it's pretty much like just slicing.
Yeah. Well, he said, "So what's it sound like?" I'm like, sounds like super gnarly, and then you turn a knob and it does some stuff, and I don't know how to describe it." And he's like, "If you work for that company, they should fire you." So
well, you don't. So.
I was like, "Hey, the payola, there's no payola. We're fine." So, and then the 0 and 2 function. So the only way I could describe it is like the 0 function was more quote unquote like normal,
right?
And then 2 is tear your face off.
Yeah.
So
the 2
what's
is
going on there?
That divide. That's basically like an octave thing. It's dividing the pitch by 2, so it's dropping it down, and but it also, I mean, and this is where like like I'm almost more of like a circuit bender than I am like a circuit designer, because we kind of throw things in there and things just happen, and even I don't fully understand. I can't explain to you like it totally teched out why it does what it does, but I mean I know that it's dividing the pitch by 2, but it also kind of destabilizes the circuit in a weird way when you do that, just the way the circuit kind of feeds into the oscillator and everything. So hence some of the weird effects that you get when it's on 2. It definitely it's not, when I think of like a classic like pitch divider, like Electro Harmonix pitchfork. I mean, when you set that thing to an octave, I mean, you get a perfect octave. I mean, that's not what we're doing at all. I mean, when you set that to 2, it's like it's all over the place. I mean, it'll kind of do that, but it gives you almost like a synthy kind of, video game, 8-bit
Oh
kind of
yeah,
thing,
exactly. That's
Yeah,
exactly okay. Yeah, I did a little clip with it where was like, all right, folks, I'm going to turn my guitar into a 8-bit video game character, and people were like,
yeah,
what? And I
yeah,
plugged that in, and then I had the McCaffrey Run Rabbit Run Univibe, which isn't just a Univibe. It does a lot of weird stuff, especially it has a mode where you kick it on crazy mode and turn the speed up, and it basically is like a ring mod type thing. And I had that together with a guitar disruptor, and it sounded like,
yeah,
came out of Mario Brothers. It was awesome.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, my friend Drew. He was somebody that we gave him a pedal early on. He's a guitar player in a band called Blue Black, and he runs. He puts his wah in front of it,
oh
and
wow,
it does some really crazy stuff with the wah, because now you got, the wah is doing all kinds of weird filtering, and then this thing's doing its thing, and he gets some pretty spacey sounds.
nice.
He's got certain parts of songs that are, basically call for, it's completely, complete insanity, and it's that's what it is.
That fits the bill. That'll
That's
work.
what it does. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's good stuff. You said something that kind of caught my ear a little bit earlier, and I want to see if you can kind of expand on that and maybe define it a little bit better. So you mentioned that you consider yourself more of a circuit bender than designer. What would you think makes one more one way and one more the other? What do you mean by that?
I think it's level of technical skill. I mean, I think, I know just from, speaking to a lot of builders. I mean, there are people out there that know a lot more than I do about circuitry and just the theory behind it, and what everything is actually doing. And they can sit there and just look at a schematic or draw a schematic out, right for you, and be like, oh yeah, this the the peak voltage here is applied to this capacitance, and they'll sit there and they know, top down what everything is in a circuit. With me, I mean, I take sort of like building block pieces, and I just make connections and experiment. I mean, that's kind of that's how I design, our stuff. It's more like, okay, I kind of know what this thing does. Let me try, making a connection here and seeing what happens. And if it doesn't blow up the chip, if I can recreate it, and if it's reproducible, I say, okay, I'll remember that, and try to build something around it. And I don't always fully understand why it is, and I think that's kind of. I mean, if you look, if you've used our stuff, I think that kind of comes through. Where it's, I think some people would not build the kind of things we build because they're maybe technically wrong, or they're not really the way you're supposed to be using that chip. But it kind of fits in with what we like. So that's
Right.
how I would describe it. It's a bender. Classically, a bender is somebody that just, they open up a toy, they open up a piece of equipment, and they just start making connections, whether it's by touching it with their hands, or, just getting a wire and going around and making, you know, connecting things and seeing what happens, and hoping that things don't blow up. And if you find a connection point that works, you just, you mark those things off, and then you just create, like, you put a switch there, and now that's your, the switch that does, makes, the speak and spell sound crazy, that sound crazy, and
Mm-hmm.
that's your instrument, and that I've always seen myself closer, more akin to that,
Okay.
you know what I mean? So
Yeah, that
that's
makes
how,
sense.
yeah,
Okay, all right. I think I get that because I've heard of pedal builders kind of going from a similar kind of mindset where they, instead of like you say, kind of like designing a circuit, they'll like breadboard something out the way it should be, say a fuzz, and then they'll pull something out, not really not
yeah,
really knowing exactly what they're doing. They'll pull
right,
something out and replace it with something else, or add a switch, or route something a different way without like
right,
fully understanding it. And I think that can lend itself to some really interesting results. And as a matter of fact, I don't know if this is true or not, but I was told that's kind of what like Debbie Ever did back when she started, and that's how she kind of came up with some of the weird stuff she came up with. So anyway,
I can believe it. Yeah, I can believe that. Yeah,
that makes sense, and I think that's cool. Like, I think there's a place for both of them, but it you know, well, that actually reminds me of something that I think I've talked about before, where somebody posted somewhere, like an electrical engineering professor posted about one of my students brought in this death by audio fuzz, and like I can't remember what component it was. Like all the, I'm just gonna say op amps, even though it may have been something else. All the op amps were wired backwards, and it's the stupidest design I've ever seen. And there's no reason that this thing should exist. And somebody like replied, "We're like, yeah, but it sounds rad, so that's why it's done that way."
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the what I'm talking about, and I think maybe you see it more. I mean, definitely like in the synth world. I mean, like again, I mean, if you've ever seen like Robert Moog talk, I mean, there was a guy that I mean, from top down, he knew like everything about circuitry. He knew, where everything went and the proper use for everything. I would be surprised to find that like somebody like that was just connecting wires. You know what I mean? I hold him to I think a totally different standard of somebody that really, was like almost miniaturized himself and was in the circuit and could kind of navigate everything, so I look at that and I'm like, man, I'm definitely not that, and it's okay, because if you're gonna have a brand or like a just a style, I mean, you kind of have to, in some way, you almost have to embrace your limitations, you know what I mean, of being like, okay, we're not going to do this, and this. So that leaves us with this little thing that we do maybe really good, and let's just focus on that instead of trying to be the best designer or make the best whatever. We're just gonna make the best Electrofaustus pedals.
There you go.
So
well, I can say you've succeeded. You've definitely make the best Electrofaustus pedals that I've ever played, like or seen for that matter. I've never seen Electrofaustus stuff that is as good as your Electrofaustus stuff. So,
well, just to give Eric does all the graphics. I mean, he's not on the call now, but he deserves all the credit for the for the graphics and that kind of the look of things. I mean, we've got kind of like a minimalist kind of like line drawing kind of thing, but we've it's minimalist, but there's definitely been a lot of thought that's gone into the look of our pedals, because I think when we started, I mean, there's a certain sort of pedal aesthetic that was there, I think a couple of years ago, or maybe even still now, of kind of heavy on the graphics and very pictorial. And so we wanted to be a little different with like I said, with the lines and stuff like that, just to kind of, be a little different with that.
I think they look really cool. I like the guitar Damarung it looks wise in particular. I really like that one. And then the drone thing, going back to that thing again. I love how all the lines all just. It makes me, looking at it. It does. I mean, obviously there's no labeled controls, but it looking at that graphic, it almost explains to me what that pedal's going to sound like, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, it's almost got like an Indian kind of, weird, like not tapestry, but like a mandala kind of vibe to it. Yeah, we that was, we purposely did not label anything because we wanted it to just be like, well, we'll do a video for it, but let people just figure it out. Turn some knobs and see what happens. It's people figure it out. And obviously you did, and everybody pretty much picks it up pretty quickly. So
yeah, it's a lot of fun. Then I had my buddy playing it the other night, and he did it totally different than I did, and it still sounded rad. He's like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm like, I don't think you're supposed to. Like, just start going.
Yeah. My favorite thing about that is it's actually the volume control, because it completely changes once you turn up the volume and you're at like, you start getting it like say 3:00 ish. It brings out the LFO and you start to hear that pulsing where you don't really hear it quite so much at lower volumes, but you turn that up and you cut the tone a little bit, and it really starts to shake, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's easy to get lost in.
Yeah,
There's like 6 controls or
there's 6 oscillators. Yep.
yeah, um, and just like I don't know, it just so many textures. I just had so much fun with it. It was like,
Yeah.
okay, I need to go into the house now. This has been out here for a long time, twisting knobs and making racket. I need to settle down.
Yeah. I mean, I think the other thing about our pedals too, I think, is that because they're kind of simple, like whenever we make something, I'm always thinking of the person that already has like 100 pedals, and how we could, at least when it comes to like the instruments that we make, how we can make something that could be used with lots of different pedals. Like, just here's this weird sound generator source, and now I know that the person buying it has got all kinds of crazy pedals. How is it going to sound differently for this person, for you, as opposed to me with my pedals, and this other person with their pedal board, and so I that's a big factor too. It's like to make something simple that plays well with other pedals, and you can have fun with in lots of ways like that, because I mean, nowadays everyone's got a pedal board, everyone has tons of pedals. It's it's almost like I don't feel like I have to make something that does everything. Like, I don't have to make a pedal that has delay and weird filtering type effects, because I know people have that already. Just
Mm-hmm.
just give them something a little weird, fun to play, and it's like they're going to take it in their own direction anyway, and either mod it themselves, like some people are doing, or just make it unique based on what you plug it into,
Right. Well, that said, I think I would be super intrigued to see what you did with a delay. Well, I can't. It wouldn't be just a delay, I'm sure,
Yeah,
but like I
I
would be
thought about
very
it.
intrigued.
Yeah, we have thought about it. I mean, there's the big thing now is like the kind of like the stutter, repeat thing. A lot of people were doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that was, I mean, I don't know about that. Maybe, um, I mean, some kind of a thing where you could maybe put an oscillator in the sort of
Yeah, like
the
in just on the repeat or something.
yeah, so that it's repeating based on some sort of internally or externally knob controlled oscillation, maybe doing weird, so it's not even like the same, it's not like the same repeat time, it's sort of fluctuate. I don't know, that's a possibility, maybe.
That would be fun.
Yeah. It would have to be different. There's so many delays out there. I wouldn't want to do it unless it was something somewhat unique,
That seems to be your MO.
Yeah.
You don't really do anything that's been done before, so because why?
Yeah, I mean, and there's a lot of great companies out there, doing distortion, and I mean, doing new things with it. We talked about when we first talked on the phone. We talked about was it called, the Pelotor,
Oh yeah,
that
yeah.
thing. I was, like everybody else, when I saw that, I'm like, oh boy, here we go. It's just going to be a clone, But then it was great. I mean, it was like that was a really, I thought that was a really unique take on things. I mean, I was really impressed with that.
Yeah, well, all the listeners are probably getting really sick of that pedal being talked about. But hey, he's one of my best friends, and he made a cool thing. So,
I didn't even. I mean, yeah. When I mentioned it, it was, I didn't even know. I mean, it was just, I had seen a video of it from this company, 60 Cycle Hum.
yeah,
They demoed it, like, I think they had demoed one of our pedals, but I think it was, I forget if it was the week before or the week after they demoed that one, and I was there, I was looking at it, and I was like, oh, it's great, it's genius, it's really, thought it was a really good idea, as a pedal builder, I mean, I was impressed,
well, and I mean, I know everyone's gonna think I'm biased, but it does sound really really good, and it's really really useful. For if you need that kind of effect, like you can dial it in, and there's a lot of tones in there.
Right. Yeah, for one
Um,
pedal, it definitely, it seemed like it did quite a bit.
yeah. So, I'm pretty proud of my friend Leon on that one. I gotta say, he did good, and now he's setting his mind to other projects, and I'm like, what are you gonna come up with next? That's that's a tough act to follow. So we'll see what he does.
Yep, definitely.
He was laughing at himself too, because he's like, I never even like made a perf board pedal before. Like that was his like his first thing. So
Yeah, I mean, how did did he have any knowledge or training of circuitry? Was it just like, here's a couple of chips and parts and just kind of
well,
hunt and peck?
he's built a couple kits. He knows a lot more about it than I do, that's for sure. No, he does have some electrical knowledge, and he's had to do like troubleshooting of things in his day job. So he wasn't completely foreign to electrical components and whatnot. But he's definitely not like an engineer or anything. So he'd built like one tremolo kit before, and then he'd done a lot of soldering. He did a lot of
that's I've inhaled way too much solder smoke in my life. That comes with the territory.
Yeah, he's done a lot of soldering, but no, like he's not like a formerly trained engineer or anything like that. So
well, yeah, hey, cheers to him, man. He did a great job.
There we go. I wonder how much mileage he's going to get out of this podcast. I wonder. and Chasing Tone, for that matter. I wonder how many miles. Come on, Leon. When are you going to pay me for a sponsorship spot already? Jeez. I'm just kidding. Anyway, to kind of like get this back to you, because you're the guest. What kind of projects are in the pipeline, or what are you working on right now that you're kind of jazzed about, or are you just kind of where are you at right now with things?
Well, I mean, like I was saying before, we have the collaboration with Fuzzrocious. I'm excited about that. I think it's going to be, he's got, Ryan has his whole sort of audience, and we have our, little world. I think they're, kind of separate. So I think combining the two will be fun to see how people react to that. I mean, I'm excited about it. So there's that coming. That'll be in the summer. Like I said, the modular thing, that's happening. I mean, I hope to have that by the fall. It'll definitely be ready by the next NAMM show. We're currently miniaturizing actually the disruptor. We're putting that in a smaller enclosure. Basically, I mean, like I said, we were talking before. I mean, everybody now has a pedal board, and we just wanted to put it in a smaller enclosure just to, make it a little bit easier for people to say, oh, I really want this pedal, and now it'll fit better on my board, So it's something that, when we first started building them, I don't think it was as much of a consideration, but now I think it at least in my mind, it's probably more important that you don't want to, sell some, it's not gigantic, but it's the bigger, the bigger enclosure that we currently use. We're going to put it in one similar to like Earthquaker uses.
Okay.
It's going to be that sized, and same features, everything will be the same. Just a smaller thing. We may end up going with that enclosure for some of the other things like the Phototheremin. I don't know if that's happening this year, whenever we run out of the enclosures we have of the old ones. So that's kind of on the horizon, just kind of making things smaller if we can. Yeah.
Right. But not like not mini pedal though. Just
no, definitely.
Basically regular pedal.
Yeah, exactly. Just regular sized.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I don't foresee. I mean, that kind of comes down to the parts you use too. You really have. I mean, we do all the soldering ourselves, and some of those super micro mini boards. I mean, you would have to have. I would think you'd have to have a machine solder that. I don't think that's something that I could even solder. They're so small. So you can
a lot
only,
of that stuff is surface mount done by pick and place and various other methods. So
right
you're
now,
right.
Yeah, Eric and I do all the, we have the boards made, they're made in China, the PC boards themselves, but, we do all the soldering. We put them all together. So I don't foresee it getting smaller than that Earthquaker box.
Yeah.
So there's that. What else? That's really it for now. Yeah, that's really everything we have going on. I mean, we're trying to put together some kind of a like a show or something. I mean, after going to Moog Fest, we were kind of like, well, we want to have our own, Faust Fest now, and maybe
Nice.
have. So we're bouncing around some ideas and whether to do it, out by us here in Patchogue, or do it in Brooklyn, which will probably draw maybe a little more people. Or something. So that's something we're going to try to do. Maybe definitely before NAMM, because that's planning for NAMM is a whole ordeal. So we'd want to get
Of
it
course.
done by the summer or the fall. So that's something we want to do
Yeah, if
too.
you can pull off something like that in Brooklyn, I imagine you would draw probably a lot of the same like guys that would go to Moogfest, like the Eurorack guys and
Yeah,
all the other stuff. So
yeah,
that would be really interesting.
yeah. Because it's weird. Like whenever we do a show like NAMM or something, I mean, it's you know, I think the only limit to how far we could go is like how many people know about us, and sometimes you hit like a brick wall where it's like you just have to break through it and try to get more eyes on your stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
the only way to do that is to just be out there as much as you can doing whatever kind of marketing. I mean, we don't have a marketing department. I don't have a marketing budget per se. I mean, our marketing is, like everyone else's, Instagram and Facebook and stuff like that. But, sometimes getting out there and just being in a place, whether it's, doing a pedal expo at Main Drag or, NAMM or something like we're trying to do, it's sometimes that can kickstart something else. I mean, even just the fact that I'm talking to you right now, I think we talked about this. I mean, I kind of indirectly I know about you because of craft beer, and
Right.
my right. So I mean, can I tell that story? Is that okay?
Yeah, you
Can
do it.
I mean,
Yeah, that's fine.
I mean, I have this friend, Paul Komzik, who well, let me start. I'm a homebrewer. I've been a homebrewer for years, and I was one of the founding members of a homebrew club out here called the Brewers Collective. And through that, I met Paul Komzik, who was the head brewer at a brew pub in the town I live in here in Patchogue. And so I became friends with him, and we started talking. I found out he was a bass player, and he's huge into pedals. So obviously we would geek out, and he found out I built pedals, and so conversations would always revolve around pedals. And he subsequently told me about Fuzzrocious and Ryan, and I met Ryan at last NAMM in January, and Ryan introduced me to you. So that's why I know about you, because of beer.
Hey, that's a very solid thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And you're into craft
uh,
beer too, right?
well, I mean, I live in Portland. I mean,
Oh
it's
yeah, okay.
I think, yeah,
It's a
it's a legal
prerequisite, right?
requirement. Well,
Yeah,
I don't live in Portland, but I'm like very close, just on the outskirts. So,
yeah.
yeah, I think I might be arrested or something if I didn't like craft beer. I think that's how it works.
Yeah.
Um, no, yeah, I did some home brewing for a little while, and before kind of the gear addiction took over, I actually built, my little shred shed in the backyard, or the Tone Mom HQ as I've been calling it. Um, and originally a section of it was going to be for brewing, and I had
Hmm.
this big plan to like make this system and do all this stuff. And then I loaded everything out there and played with the band one time out there, and I was like, this is not going to work. Like, there's no there's not enough
Oh
room.
man, you had to pick one. You had to pick.
Yep.
Well, I'll tell
So
you, I really think that there's something to the rise in, like, boutique pedals and the rise in craft beer over the last 10 years. I mean, there's definitely something in the air. I think those two go hand in hand, to be honest with you.
I totally agree with you, and I've kind of talked about it before with some guys. There's a lot of similarities in the two industries,
It
in
really
that
is. I mean,
like,
you can be you can be a small. I mean, a lot of these nano breweries, they're small breweries. They just kind of service their local areas. I mean, they're not I mean, they basically make a product that is as good as the big guys, again, I think similar to the pedal business. I mean, you can name any number of small pedal companies that are making pedals way better than Boss and Roland and whoever the major companies are. I mean, they're kicking their ass, and
Mm-hmm.
so I always root for the little guy too. I mean, it's just something you do,
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's just like this thing is, it's like all the small companies are trying to basically take the market share, as much market share as they can, away from the big guys. And it's like the same exact thing in the craft beer and the pedal industry. It's like the market is much larger than it seems sometimes. Forget how many people are still drinking Budweiser. you know?
Right. Well, I think
Um,
I think craft beer recently like caught up or got even or maybe just slightly outpaced it. It was like a year or two ago. I remember reading that they'd kind of reached an equilibrium or maybe just started to surpass it.
oh, interesting. That I didn't
Yeah.
realize it was that close now.
Yeah,
That's
I think so. I think it's very close. This is just, I mean, just Bud, like just Bud. I mean, not all the variants of
oh,
Bud. I
okay.
mean, if I'm sure if I mean Budweiser was really getting off topic, but I mean Budweiser is totally trying to monopolize things, and they're buying a lot of the smaller, well, the larger small breweries, and it's
Yes.
it's kind of significant to me because there's a brewery in the town I live in Patcho called Blue Point that
Mm-hmm.
was a a brewery that just loved because I mean they were local, they were small, and when they got bought out, I mean it was heart wrenching. It was just like to know that they got bought by Bud. It was at first that people thought it was a joke. It was like, no, this can't be true, and because
Right.
they were always promoting, like never, never sell out, never, and they did, and it hurt,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. I had a similar experience when 10 Barrel out of Bend. Uh, Very much the same kind of Bend, Oregon. They were the local ones to me to get bought out by Budweiser. I think it's
Uh,
Bud, but so far, and it's been going on for a while, nothing's really changed except their scale,
mm,
obviously. They're
yeah,
still making the same stuff. That was with a big concern. Like, are they going to change? Because 10 Barrel was very experimental with sours and all kinds of that, that kind of stuff. And so far, that's still the case. So, but at the same time, it was like, oh man,
yeah,
ah,
yeah. It's
the,
because they're like your local, they're just the local guys, they're the local brewery. They're not, the mega corp, and then all of a sudden that's it. But
I know. But at the same, and I, as I've gotten a little bit older, I try not to be so harsh on that because I guess like the mindset was like, okay, well, if Boss came in and said, you know what, Electrofaustus, we'd like to buy you for $2 million, you'd
right,
probably be like, well,
yeah,
okay, well, all
yeah,
right, and we're
yeah.
not going to change anything. We just want, to scale you up.
It's
It'd be
true.
like, okay, I
It's
think,
true.
all right, we'll try it.
Yeah. See,
So
I'm gonna say no. I would never sell out, but that's only because I think that would probably never happen. So I think I can. You can quote me on that.
it's on the record now.
It's on record. It's taped. It's recorded.
Joe said he will never sell out to Boss.
But see, that doesn't. See, now I have a loophole because I could sell out to somebody else. That's just boss. This is
No,
boss. I won't sell out to.
no, you said Boss, not Roland. Oh
Yeah.
wait.
Gotcha.
Oh wait, they're the same company. Dang it. So you didn't say I couldn't sell to Fender. You didn't say that. You said
Electro harmonics. The name. It starts with electro.
yeah. It's
It's
like the
almost the
same.
same.
It's almost the same thing.
Maybe nobody will notice.
just slide it on
Yeah,
over.
just to scratch out Faustus and put harmonics.
Monix in it. But Electro Harmonix Blackfly. What in the world? I'm
What?
so confused. Well, right on, man. So we have just cracked that hour mark. So, ironically, talking about craft beer instead. But hey, that's what happens. I would be remiss if I didn't ask you the classic Tone Mob question that not everyone, but a good chunk of everyone gets asked. And since
Okay.
you live in New York, I feel like I'm very obligated to ask you this.
Okay.
What kind of pizza do you like?
I am a Sicilian man. Love Sicilian.
Love Sicilian.
Yeah, Sicilian's the way to go. I probably eat, just a regular slice more commonly, but like if I was gonna like if I was on death row and I had to choose a style to eat, it would be like a Sicilian pie, definitely.
Sicilian pie. Is there a specific place that you like the best for your Sicilian pie, or you just kind of anything under that umbrella will float your boat?
Yeah, the place local to us is a place called the Pepperoni Grill here in Patchogue. That's our local pizza place. I'm partial to that, but um, I being in New York, I would never go to like a Pizza Hut or not even Domino's. I can't eat that stuff. I have to go to even like a bad local place is is better than that. I can't get with the fast food pizza.
I hear you. Most of the time, I totally agree with you. Except there's this one place. I won't name its name because that's not very nice. But there's a local pizza joint here in Portland, and it's the only place that'll deliver to where I work.
Okay.
And I don't work that far away, which is very confusing from like other places. But this is the only place that'll deliver, and it's terrible.
Yeah.
It's I would rather have Pizza Hut,
Wow.
which is yeah. So, and I don't ever want Pizza Hut, so you can imagine how bad this is. It's cardboard. It's bad. So,
I wonder how they stay in business.
probably because they're the only ones that deliver to certain locations. I don't know, something like that. Like even my coworkers who don't normally care and like eat McDonald's all the time, they're like, "This pizza's terrible." They're like, "Why do we even order it?" So yeah, I usually just eat a couple of meatballs off the top and like try to avoid that crust as much as possible. But anyway, this is welcome to Tone Mob, the beer and pizza podcast, where I talk to fellow builders about food that they like.
It's when you find out that's when you find out the real interesting stuff about a person. It's the off-topic stuff.
That's right. It's the kind of pull back the curtain a little bit, see what's going on.
Yep.
So, well, let's go ahead and wrap this up. Joe, where can people find Electrofaustus and all your stuff on the internet?
Yeah, electrofaustus.com. All our stuff is available for sale there. We use PayPal, but with PayPal you can use credit cards and all that good stuff. Actually, there's currently from now until I think about the 4th of July, we have a sale, 25% off on our website. Just got to use as a coupon code NOIZE, NOIZE. Just pop that in there and you get 25% off the order.
There you go.
On the site, there's if you're out of the country or not in California, say, or by you in Portland, we have dealers kind of all over the place, so you can check that out to see if there's one closer to you. Maybe shipping is better. Certainly overseas, there's stuff in Europe that between the shipping and customs and all that, it's better. But yeah, just electrofaustus.com, and we're on Facebook, Instagram, all that good stuff. Definitely if you want to reach out to us, if you have pictures and examples, demos you want to share, we love that stuff too.
Perfect. And as you guys know, that link will be in the show notes, so check it out.
Great.
Right on. Well, thanks for coming on, Joe. I really appreciate it. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, thank you. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yes. And keep doing what you do. I really, really enjoy it. So, yeah. So, with that, for Joe, this is Blake. And as always, folks, good luck and good tones. All right, folks, that does it for this week's episode. As always, thank you very much for tuning in. And I should say that the Fuzzrocious and Electrofaustus project has been actually announced by now, and it is super sick. It's their Black Fly coupled with the Fuzzrocious Gray Stash, and it is all kinds of crazy and gnarly and insane, just like you would expect. So definitely go check that out. There's not that many of them available. And besides that, we are at the final countdown. Big bomb dropping actually a week from the day this episode drops on the email list. So if you're not signed up, I've been saying it for months. I know that everybody who listens is not signed up on the email list. So head on over to tonemob.com, hit join the mob, and you'll be privy to the first domino of what I hope to be a very, very, very exciting new chapter in the Tone Mob. So thanks for tuning in, and as always, have a good week. Talk to you next time. One last thing before we totally sign off here, I just want to remind you that if you do any shopping at Stringjoy, that's Stringjoy guitar strings made in Nashville, that will help me out as well. As I've said for years, I'm heavily involved in that company, and I really do think they're making the best products on the market. So if you would like to try custom strings, go to tonemob.com/stringjoy and check them out today. I seriously love what the team down there is doing. I help them out with all kinds of things, and by you supporting them, you are also supporting me as well. And hey, you need some strings, so why not get some custom strings just for your guitar and playing style? Again, the link for that is tonemob.com/stringjoy, and that will take you right to their website, and you can do all your shopping through there, and that will help everyone involved out. So thank you very much. Talk to you next time. We are brought to you by the wonderful folks at Gun Street Wiring Shop. Yes, Gun Street Wiring Shop. I've talked about them before. I used to say based out of Bend, Oregon, but guess what? Sean moved to my neck of the woods. Sean's in Portland. Sean is awesome and has helped me with a bunch of stuff lately. And if you have wiring needs for your guitar, he can help you too. If you want to get weird with it, he can get weird. If you just need to spruce things up a little bit, there's your guy. He takes all the guesswork out of doing your guitar wiring, and he makes it simple, and his customer service is top-notch, and I can't say enough good things about Gun Street as a company. I really respect Sean and what he's all about, and the product is top-notch. I've got 3 different guitars that now have Gun Street harnesses in them, and I could not be happier. So go to gunstreetwiringshop.com and check them out.